Hello aspirants, welcome back. This video is brought to you by Transform IAS Academy. So in this particular video, we would be discussing the preliminary question paper of 2019 which was being conducted on June 2nd. So the paper analysis would actually be divided into two parts, that is part 1 and part 2. So here the sect paper what we would be discussing is sect D of the preliminary examination. In part 1, we will be covering the first 50 questions. In part 2, we will be covering the rest 50 questions. So basically if we have to talk about like how was the paper pattern this year the paper was pure a blend of current as well as the static portion. You had a good number of questions based on the static as well as on the current portion as well. The second important thing was that the current affairs were not of the present context as well, it was of the earlier current affairs as well. So it was somewhere of 15-16, for example the UNCAC, that's a convention against corruption, was also an old current affairs that was being added up this time. And if you see a little on the politic questions, even if you have read the Lakshmikant cover to cover, if you have had no analytical mindset, then the question would have been a difficult one. For example, there was one of the question, right to marry a person of one's choice. So it was purely from the fundamental rights, but in an indirect format connected with the current affairs. For this, you need to have a proper analytical part, because there was one of the marriage issue what was happening with the Adya's case. So that was being taken, and a frame of question had come in such a way where they have included the static and a proper blend of the current affairs. And if you see the environment and geography questions, you would not be able to actually, there were few questions you were not able to recognize whether they belong to the environment section or the geography question. And when it comes to history, you had it from ancient, medieval and modern as well. So it was a proper blend of all the three, and the good part was that they were from the static portion directly. So this was a bit helpful for us. And when it comes to economic, the questions were directly from the static portion and the current happenings to what is being there. So purely we could say that this paper was a 50-50 chances, but the student who are done with the static and current affairs, they would have sailed through the paper very easily. So this is an analysis. Let me start up with the first part of the 2019 preliminary analysis paper. The first question is with references to Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, consider the following statements. So this is purely a sort of a question which was based on the current affairs and a knowledge to what you have it. First question, first statement, the AIIB has more than 80 member nations. When we talk about 80 member nations, this is factual in nature. So they're talking it's more than 80 member nations. So you should know that it is definitely more than 80 member nations, but what could be the correct answer for it? So the correct option with respect to 80 member is, it is 97 total members when it comes to AIIB. India is the largest shareholder in AIIB. This is completely wrong because it is China. So China has been leading with nearly 26% and India is just with 7.6. So 3 times more is what China is. So India can't be the largest shareholder in AIIB. And AIIB does not have any member from outside Asia, which is again extremely wrong option, because it has countries like Australia in it. When they have the Australia country, otherwise Asia alone cannot make 70 member nations, common sense. So this is something you need to know, and the correct answer for these question is 1 only, because this seems to be more logic, and this can't be an answer, and this is something where it is making India to be a largest share in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which is again a wrong statement. For the first statement, the answer is A, 1 only. And for the second statement, what was the purpose of inter-credit agreement signed by the Indian banks and the financial institutions recently? So if you see, this is a trend of your current affairs which was being there. So in this particular current affairs, it is an inter-credit agreement. So the correct answer here, it would be your D option, because it is to aim at the faster resolution of the stressed asset of 50 crore or more which are under consortium lending, because creditor agreement is all about the NPAs, that are non-performing assets. This is purely your current affairs which was repeatedly there in the news here and then. So this cannot lessen the government's burden of the fiscal and the current account deficit, cannot be an answer, and this can't support the projects of the central and the state governments as well. And then it is an act of the independent regulator in case of applications for loans of 50 crore or more, again which is not. So the correct answer for the second statement is actually D. For the third one, the chairman of the public sector banks are selected by. So if you have seen your current affairs and if you know about the program called Indradhanush program, you would have come across the term called BBB, that's a Banks Board Bureau, and there were nearly 75 people as a leadership roles. They have been appointed as a chairman of the public sector banks, and who has been selecting them? It is a Banks Board Bureau. There's again a direct, a sort of a current affairs question. You didn't had much of analytical work to do here. If you have read it and if you know it, an answer is there, right? And it's nothing but the Banks Board Bureau. That is A option. The fourth one, consider the following statements. The Petroleum and the Natural Gas Regulatory Body is the first regulatory body set up by the Government of India. Since 1950, do you think this is the only first regulatory body which has been set up? Wrong answer. It can't be, because we have something called as an IRDAI, then we have the TRI as well, which is a regulatory body. So this is not the correct answer. One of the tasks of the PNB is to ensure a competitive markets for the gas. Yes, this is correct. And third statement, appeals against the decisions of the PNGRB go before the appellate tribunals for electricity. This is also correct. In this part, the answer would be 2 and 3 only, because the first one is outrightly taken out. So if you take out the first statement, if you very clearly know this is not the answer, then directly your option A, option C, option D have been eliminated, and without any further ado, you'll be left off with only one option, and that is 2 and 3. Even if you don't know your option 3, the answer would be only B, that is 2 and 3. So this we call it to be as an elimination method. Then fifth, with reference to communication technologies, what are the difference between the LTE, long term evolution, and VoLTE, that's voice over long term evolution? For this the answer is with respect to basically a sort of a questions which is based on the 4Gs. So it's not a 3G network, it's an advanced 4G. So the first statement is wrong. Second statement, LTE is a data only technology and VoLTE is a voice only technology. So actually this one is voice as well as data. That the VoLTE is not only voice only technology, it's a data also. So it is also based on the data based technology as well. So the option 2 is completely incorrect here. For the fifth one, it will be neither 1 nor 2, because it's not 3G, it's 4G. So the correct answer for the fifth is D. Then we have, which of the following statements is correct regarding the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 2017? So here the pregnant women are entitled for the 3 months pre-delivery and 3 months post-delivery paid leave. We will keep this on hold. Second, enterprises with crèches must allow the mother minimum 6 crèche visits daily. So this is actually wrong, because if you have seen the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act of 2017 which was been amended, it is actually 4 crèche visits daily. It's not 6. The women with 2 children get reduced entitlements. This is actually correct. So in this case, if we see statement 3 is correct, and you also have it in statement D 1, 2 and 3. So you might be under grave importance to what could be an answer, because 2 is not the correct answer here. We outrightly took that answer. Since 1 and 2 is here, 2 is also we have taken it out. So the most likely part what we would be having is only 3, with the logic again. You don't have to get a complete information on them. With whatever you have, you can use the elimination method and you could have reached your answer. And you should know that from 12 weeks have actually been increased to 26 weeks. So that is one of the concept that you have to know about it. And there was also one or more of the 2 surviving children. They would actually be with respect to 12 weeks, of which should not be more than 6 weeks shall precede the date of our expected delivery. So there was no proper part of it. So the answer is C3 only. Then, which one of the following is not a sub-index of the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index? So if you have seen your sub-indexes, it was very clear that the indices is not having maintenance of law and order. So if you have read and if you have seen the sub-indices, then without any further thoughts, with 5 seconds you would have reached your answer, and that answer is A, the 7th question. Then we have the 8th. In India, extended producers responsibility was introduced as an important feature in which of the following? If you say in the month of December 2018, this part of the portions of the current affairs was being covered, and in India it's an extended producer responsibility, it's directly on the option C, the e-waste management and handling rules of 2011. And we also did few of the mains test series in the classes as well with respect to e-waste. If you have seen and if you have found the answers back, then this would have been a very easy question, because these kinds of mains answer writing we have done it back in our classes. So the 8th one, the answer would be C for that matter. Then the 9th, the economic cost of food grains to the Food Corporation of India is minimum support price and bonus paid to the farmers plus. So minimum support price has been given and bonus, but what is the other thing the farmer would be getting? Transportation cost only. This only is something we need to hold it on. Interest cost only, it's something again we need to think about it, because the terms only are very extreme in its nature. We just can't just go blind about it. We need to hold it. So if you see the C state part, it is procurement incidentals and the distribution cost. So in this procurements, incidentals and distribution cost, again this is something which is making sense. And D, procurements, incidental and charges for godown. To some extent they might get some godown charges also, but if you see in your budget part, it is clearly been given, it's a procurement, incidentals and distribution cost. For the 9th one, you can directly move on to the option C, that's a procurements, incidental and distribution cost is something a farmer would get it in plus. Then we have the 10th, in the context of any country, which one of the following could be considered as a part of its social capital? So this is a very basic static portion. You will be having the economic, human, social, demographic capital. So the first part, the proportion for the literates in the population, it is something related to human capital. So that's not an answer. The stock of its building, other infrastructure and machines is economic capital. The size of the population, which is again a human capital. The level of mutual trust and harmony in the society, this is something related to the social capital. For the 10th one, the answer is D, because the other 3 can be outrightly taken out, because it is social and it is human, it is called human and the economic capital. So the left out is only 1. So defaultly the answer should be D itself for the 10th one. Right. And the 11th one, the service area approach was implemented under the purview of, if you have read the schemes, then the schemes would have come through a direct help to you all, because it is very simple. It's nothing but the lead bank scheme. So this is the one which is purely on the service area approach. Then with references to the management of minor minerals in India, consider the following statements. So I could say that this is purely from your PIBs. So in the month of December you had this portion, and this is directly from there, and they have considered that sand to be as a minor mineral first and foremost. If you know this part, then statement 1 is correct for you. Statement 2 is, state governments have the power to grant mining releases of minor minerals, but the power regarding the formation of rules related to the grant of minor minerals lie with the central government. And the state's third statement is correlated. State governments have the power to frame rules to prevent illegal mining of the minor minerals. So what could be an answer? If you see the first statement is correct, if you know the first statement is correct, it should be either A or it should be D. In that case, you should see which is more appropriate. Since it's correlated, you can conclude the answer to be as an A answer. 1 and 3 is actually the correct answer with respect to the 12th question. Then comes with respect to the 13th question. Consider the following statement. Most of India's external debt is owed by the central and governmental entities. So it is not only by the owed by the governmental entities, it can be the commercial banks, it might be any other private entities as well. It just can't be one. Second, all of India's external debt is denominated in US dollars. So it is actually a multiple currency to what it has been there. You just can't rely on only one particular currency. Let's say if you're going for a borrowing to any other country and they give it in terms of SDRs or they give it in terms of euro, yuan, and you just can't deny it. You need to take them out. So which means that it can't just be the denominated in US dollars. In that case, the 13th answer is actually D, neither 1 nor 2. Because you can see the extremity of this particular statements, all and most, which is something you need to be a little watchful on these statements. Then comes with your 14th, which of the following is not included in the assets of the commercial bank in India? So for this, it's very simple. If you see the term assets and if you have seen the term called deposit, the answer should be B, because deposit always a liability and it can't be an asset. So in that case, for the 14th one, the answer is B, wherein advance investments and the money at call or short notice, which is nothing but the interbank transactions, all of them are coming under the assets of the commercial bank, but you need to find out which is not included in the assets. Then the answer is B, deposits. Then comes with respect to your 15th question. In the context of India, which of the following factors is a contributors to reducing the risk of a currency crisis? So in this case, you could say that statement 2, increasing the government expenditure. This can't be an answer at all, because this is like nothing to do when the government is expending more. So it can't reduce the risk of the currency crisis. So the foreign currency earnings of India's IT sector, remittance from the India's abroad. And if you say India has been topping when it comes to remittances, if you know this part, then the answer would be with respect to 3. You know 3 is correct. If 3 is correct, it should be either 1 or 3, or it should be 1, 2 and 3. Since 2 we have outrightly taken it out, the another one option without any thought, and defaultly the answer is B, 1 and 3. It can't be any other answer as well. So you have no confusions at all if you have taken out 1. That is your B, 1 and 3. Then you have with respect to, and this part we have done in the classes as well. When we did the currency parts and the remittances, balance of payments and all, we have covered them in the classes. If you have attended and if you are being a little analytical on that, this answer would have been very easy for any candidate who has been taking up with this. Then, which one of the following suggested that the governor should be an eminent person from outside the state and should be a detached political links, or should not have taken part in politics in the recent past? So this is a sort of a question from the polity section, and it is a direct question, and you need not do anything much about it. If you have read your governor chapter, the answer would have been right in front of you. That's nothing but the Sarkaria Commission, which is your option C, which is a direct question with a direct answer. So you need not to do much about it. Then comes with your 17th, which of the following is issued by a registered foreign portfolio investors to overseas investors who want to be a part of the Indian stock market without registering themselves directly. Without registering themselves directly, what can be done? So it is nothing but your option D, that is a participatory note. If you have seen your current affairs, which was repeatedly there about the FPIs, and you could know the answer is nothing but it's D, it's a participatory note. And current affairs part, so this is purely a current affairs, a blend of your static as well. In the classes, I have done this. I have done in detail to what is certificate of deposit. We have done with a commercial paper, promissory note, participatory. If you have not done your revision, then this would have been a problem. Then for the 18th, consider the following statements. As per the law, the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Management and Planning Authority exist at both the national and the state level. If anyone knows about the COMFA, then they are very definitely know that option, that's the statement 1, is exactly correct. And people's participations in mandatory the compensatory afforestation programs carried out under the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act 2016, this can't be, because people's participation is something which is actually can't be mandatory, and it can't be kept up to the mark as well. So if you just see with this term mandatory, then you would have sailed through your answer to be as A, that is 1 only. So it can't be both 1 and 2. Then we have the next question, that is the 19th. In India, which of the following review the independent regulators in the sectors like telecommunication, insurance, electricity, etc. So if you see, there are actually 2 possible answers here. One set of answer, it could be either A or it could be either D, but still this answer is just an ascertain. We need to wait for the UPSC answer key to what they had given as an answer, but logically there are actually 2 answers for it. One is ad hoc committee set up by the parliament and parliamentary department related standing committee. These are the 2 important committees which review. Since you know that Niti Aayog has been very oftenly doing a lot of reviews on it, there is a high chances that parliamentary department related standing committees is also correct with Niti Aayog. So it should be either A or it should be either D, but most possible answer for now we might go with A, that is 1 and 2. Next, with reference to India's 5-year plans, which of the following statements are correct? So if you see here, these are the extremities of statement 1 and 3. So 1 says that the second 5-year plan, there was a determined thrust towards the substitution of the basic and the capital goods industries. You need to think about it. And the third statement, in the 5th 5-year plan, for the first time, the financial sector was included as an integral part of the plan. So it is not the 5th 5-year plan. So if you know this, the correct answer is your 4th 5-year plan, which actually adopted the objective of correcting the earlier trend with respect to increased concentration of the wealth and the economic power. So the answer is directly your 2 only, that is B. That is the correct answer here. Then with references to the Constitution of India, you need to consider the following statements. So again, this is something related to an analytical mindset. You don't have to do much about it, but simple logic would have helped you to sail over the paper. No High Court shall have the jurisdiction to declare any central law to be constitutionally invalid. This just can't be an answer. An amendment to the Constitution of India cannot be called into question by the Supreme Court of India. Again, this is something an extremity. It cannot be an answer at all. For this, the answer is your D, neither 1 nor 2. This is self-explanatory. If you have read your High Courts, if you have read something related to Supreme Court, you directly know that High Court has a jurisdiction to declare any of the law to be invalid, first and foremost. Secondly, amendment to the Constitution of India can be called into a question by the Supreme Court of India. You can give numerous cases which was been there in the past, like the preamble, or with respect Keshananda Bharati case, or whatever the cases you want, you can give them. So both the part is not the correct statement. So it is D, neither 1 nor 2. Then the purchasing power parity. Exchange rates are calculated by comparing the prices of the same basket of goods and services in different countries. If you know the definition of triple P, then the first statement is correct. The second statement, in terms of the PPP dollars, India is the 6th largest economy in the world. This is wrong. So this is a part of your factual, wherein statement 1 is your static. So factual is that India is the 3rd largest economy in the world after US and China. So this is something wrong statement. Then obviously your answer should be A, that is 1 only. Then, with references to the cultivation of kharif crops in India in the last 5 years, consider the following statements. So this is something kind of we can term this to be a category of difficult question, because one cannot just get an answer without having a proper analysis. So if you see the agriculture report of 15-16, there is where you got this particular data, and we tried a lot in getting this particular data, and lastly we found it was back in 15-16. So you have a good data on that. Based on that particular data to what we made an analysis, the answer is A, 1 and 3. That is, the area under the rice cultivation is the highest, that is correct, and the 3, the area of cotton cultivation is more than that of the sugarcane. So 1 and 3 are the correct answer. The fourth statement, area under the sugarcane cultivation has steadily decreased. So this steadily decrease is something we cannot ascertain to be so. So as per the data and the report what I checked up, the answer is 1 and 3 for the 23rd question. 24. Among the agriculture commodities imported by India, which of the following accounts for the highest imports in terms of the value in the last 5 years? So again, this is something, as I told you in the beginning, this is not something with the present current affairs, but with the past current affairs as well, what they have been asked with. So this is again dating back to 2013, 14, 15 and 16 part of it. So agriculture commodities imported by India, they would be mainly like as you see the list, spices, fresh fruits, pulses and vegetable oils, but here we have to find out which is the one which accounts for the highest imports. In that case, it is the vegetable oils which is actually been to be the highest imports of all time. Then it has been followed by pulses, and then the fresh fruits, then you have something called cashew oil, spices, and lastly comes the sugar. So this is the hierarchy with respect to the 24th question. The answer is D, vegetable oils. And 25, in the context of polity, which one of the following could you accept as a most appropriate definition of liberty? So again, with a proper understanding of the term called liberty, one could directly get into the answer, that is nothing but the option D, opportunity to develop oneself fully. This is a correct answer, because protection against the tyranny of the political rules cannot be an answer if you have applied your common sense. Absence of restraint, again this cannot be an part of it, right, common sensely and logically. Third, opportunity to do whatever one likes, and why do we have the law and order? So that again can't be an answer. For the 21, the answer is D, opportunity to develop oneself fully. This is more logic and appropriate definition of the term liberty. So the answer is D. Then, which of the following is not most likely to measure the government RBI takes it to stop the slide of the Indian rupee? So if you see here, which are the one which is not actually the step what the government might not take it? Curbing imports of non-essential goods and promoting exports, this was there in your current affairs. The government started curbing with all the imports which is not completely of an essential part, and their focus was to promote the export. Even if you are not known, logically this would have helped you out. Second, encouraging Indian borrowers to issue rupee denominated masala bonds. This was very repeatedly there about the masala bonds. And easing conditions relating to external commercial borrowings. This was again there in your newspapers, where the RBI started giving some relaxation with respect to external commercial borrowings when we have the Turkish lira and rupee devaluation and the slide was happening, this was something which was been there. And in the newspapers, all the three such part you would have seen. The one thing, following an expansionary monetary policy, even if you had no much of information about it, you could have directly got to an answer for 26. That's nothing but your option D, following an expansionary monetary policy. Then consider the following statements. The Reserve Bank of India's recent directive relating to the storage of payment system data, popularly known as data dikkat, command the payment system providers that. So first and foremost, you should be knowing that this is about the data protection bill which was been there, and it is about the local terms, so they call it a data dikkat. So the first statement, they shall ensure that the entire data relating to the payment systems operated by them are stored in system only in India. So there is actually an apt answer for the statement. Second, they shall ensure that the system are owned and operated by the public sector enterprises. Public sector enterprises has nothing to do out here. If you have seen the current affairs repeatedly, there is nothing to do here. They shall submit the consolidated system audit report to the Comptroller and Auditor General. So Comptroller and Auditor General would be doing the auditing to the government, and this is something which is not an applicable part because they have to submit it to the RBI and not to the CAG. So if you know that option 3 is not there, then your C and D has been out and you'll be left out with only 1 and 2. And since you know it's not operated by the public sector enterprises, 2 can also be an answer. So the correct answer is actually A, that is 1 only. That is only a possible answer which you can take out even with a simple logic. Then you will be having, which of the following adopted a law on the data protection and privacy for its citizens known as General Data Protection Regulation in April 2016, and they also started the implementation on 25th May 2018. So without even spending a 10 seconds, you can directly get into your answer. That's a European Union, because this was repeatedly there in your newspapers, and the direct answer is nothing but the European Union. That's a 28th question. So the answer is C. You just can't spend more than 5 and 10 seconds on them. That's it. 29. Recently, India signed a deal known as Action Plan for Prioritization and Implementation of Cooperation Areas in the Nuclear Field with which of the following countries? So it is Japan, Russia, United Kingdom, United States of America. If you have seen your current affairs, the latest current affairs, and also it was in the month of October as well, and that is Russia. And you should know they're also having a collaboration with Bangladesh as well. So the correct answer is B. 30. The money multipliers and economy increases with which one of the following? So even if you are not knowing a proper definition of money multiplier, with a common sense you could have get your answer, that the answer is B, increase in banking habit of the population. And apart from that, the other 3 options are not likely to be an option, because the increase in the cash reserve ratio doesn't make sense, money multiplier, because it's only a cash reserve ratio where the banks, they have to keep it with the RBI, it will not increase. An increase in the banking habit of the population, yes, so that might become an money multiplier in an economy, because they would be getting this amount to invest somewhere else, and that might become a profit back to the economy in nature. Increase in statutory liquidity ratio, it can't be an answer, because there's something about the banks should have it within themselves. Increase in the population of the country, again, this doesn't make sense at all. So for the 30th, the answer is B. The next one, consider the following statements about the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, that is PVTGs in India. So this is something again a current based but a little factual, more factual in nature, but with one particular option, that is a statement, you could have got the answer very easily. That statement is nothing but your statement 3. If you know that there are 95 PVTG officially notified in the country so far, instead of 95 it is 75, then you would have made your option 3 a wrong statement. By doing that, you would be eliminated with your option A, option B and your option D. Defaultly your answer is only 1, 2 and 4. Even if you are not knowing about the option 1, 2 and 4, but the correct answer should be only your 1, 2 and 4, that is your option C, because you very definitely know that 75 PVTGs officially are notified in the country so far, and for a very long time they have not changed the figure which is called as in 75. So this is something, an elimination method with a simple logic and a little of presence of mind, you could have got the answers correctly. 32. With reference to the Constitution of India, the prohibitions or limitations or provisions contained in ordinary laws cannot act as prohibitions or limitations on the constitutional powers under Article 142. It could mean which of the following? So if you see here, the statement is bigger, it's quite confusing as well. But if you know about the Article 142, what does it talk on? It's talking on judiciary. If it's talking on judiciary, C for option where it talks on judiciary, and that's your B option. That is, the Supreme Court of India is not constrained in the exercise of its powers by the laws made by the Parliament. It just can't be done, as it's an independent part of it. And the first statement is talking on the decisions which has been taken by the Election Commission of India while discharging its duties cannot be challenged in any court of law. This is not an correct answer, and this is on the financial emergency, which can't be, and state legislature, which can't be. So again, it should be a direct answer which is be provided. You should know about the article 142. So that's that. And why this sort of a question, if you ask me, then this is purely on your current affairs. There's a lot of Supreme Court issues which was been happening pertaining to it, and that is one of the reason to why this article has come as a question format, and you will be able to get your answers as well. 33. With reference to Legislative Assembly of State in India, consider the following statements. So here you have two statements. The governor makes a customary address to members of the House at the commencement of the first session of the year. So there should be more logic, because the same thing would be done by the president back in Parliament. So he is the person who commences the first session of the year, and here it would be the governor, because at the state level. Secondly, when a state legislature does not have a rule on a particular matter, it follows the Lok Sabha rule on that particular matter. So we know one is perfectly right, but this one, nowhere in the books we have found it, and we are not being very sure about it. So there are two chances. It could be either A or it could be either C. So high chances are there for A and C to be as an answer for this sort of a question. But to get a clear picture about that answer, we need to wait for the UPSC answer keys, because even option C is also correct, option 1 could also be correct. We would not be able to come to an assumption on that, but any which ways, A and C can also be an answer. Then for 34, consider the following statements. So this is actually the interchange with respect to the conventions and the meaning of it. If you see the first one, the United Nations Conventions Against Corruption has a protocol against the smuggling of migrants of land, sea and air. This can't be a part of it, because this one you have it in your statement 3, which is called as an United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. That's when comes the smuggling of migrants by the land, sea and air. So the statement 1 and 3 got interchanged, and UNCAC is the first ever legally binding global anti-corruption instrument. This is correct, and your fourth statement is correct. But most of them wouldn't have got an answer, because this is a very old current affairs. This is a back of 2015-16 current affairs. We have made the convention long. So this is not something where a person would have made it, but through a fluke and luck they would have got an answer. So in that case, the answer is actually with respect to 2 and 4. So that would be a answer for it. But again, since it's a old current affairs, that's what I told you all. It's a trend not only of the present current affairs, it is also on the old current affairs. So hereafter we have to be a little more conscious about what we do it in terms of the current affairs parts as well. So this is that. Then we have, consider the following statements. As per the amendment to the Indian Forest Act 1927, the forest dwellers have the right to fell the bamboos grown on the forest areas. So this is one of the statements to what they have given. And the second statement is with respect to, as per the scheduled tribes and the other traditional forest dwellers, the recognition of the Forest Rights Act 2006, bamboo is a minor forest produce. This is correct. The scheduled tribes and other traditional forest act 2006 allows the ownership of the minor forest produce to have the forest dwellers. So this was again a very important part, because this was repeatedly there in your current affairs with respect to bamboos, which has been considered as a grass as of now. So as per that, your answer is actually D. 1, 2 and 3, all 3 statements are correct. For 36, which article of the Constitution of India safeguards one's right to marry the persons of one's choice? So that's what I told in the beginning. Even if you have read your fundamental rights and batted each and every point, you wouldn't have got an answer unless and until you are an analytical person with a touch with the current affairs. Because if you see, there was one of the case like the Hadia case, where she actually got converted and she got married to a Muslim, and her father actually made a house arrest, and this was very repeatedly there in your current affairs. But see the question how they have framed. So they've given in such a way where with an analytical, it should be a very easy question answer for you all, but if you are not knowing, this would have been a most difficult one for you all to do it. So if you say the most like answer should be only B, article 21, if you had touch with your current affairs. 19, 25 and 29 cannot be an answer, it is B, that is article 21. So this was a very brilliant question to what the UPSC has formed. So you can know, you can learn how questions can come actually when there is a issue which is repeatedly there in your papers. Then consider the following statement. According to Indian Patents Act, the biological process to create a seed can be patented in India. In India, there is no intellectual property appellate board and plant varieties are not eligible to be patented in India. So if you see, if you know one part, that is your statement 2. In India, there is no intellectual property appellate board, then you have done. Because in India, we have an intellectual property appellate board. Having statement 2 to be wrong, if you take out statement 2 in option B and option D, we have left out with only 1 and 3, or it should be 3. And if you know, according to the Indian Patents Act, biological processes to create a seed can be patented in India. No, we cannot patent it in India. This was also one of your current affairs portion. Biological process, we can't do it. So option 1 is taken out. The correct answer is your 3, because the plant varieties are not eligible to be patented in India. So this is again one of part of your current affairs, and recently it was few articles also which had been covered in our videos also. We have spoken about it, and that is a part of this particular answer. So the answer should be 3 only, that is C. 38. Consider the following statement. The Environment Protection Act 1986 empowers the Government of India to state the requirement of the public participation in the process of environmental protection and the procedure and manner in which it is sought. Second, lay down the standards for emissions or the discharge of the environmental pollutants from the various sources. If you see, both are correct. Even it's nowhere you have the complicated statements, or you don't have the extremities of the statements which is being seen. So the answer is C, both 1 and 2. 39. As per the Solid Waste Management Rules 2016 in India, which one of the following statements is correct? So if you see here, this was again been a part of your current affairs, and the person who have done the current affairs religiously, for them it wouldn't have taken 30 seconds to get an answer, because for the 39th on the solid waste management, it is nothing but the answer C. That is, the rules provide for exact and elaborate criteria for the identification of sites for landfills and the waste processing facilities. So that is the answer for the 39th. 40. Consider the following statements. As per the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Central Amendment Rules 2018. So this is a new one which was there in your current affairs. So if rules of fixed term employment are implemented, it becomes easier for the firms, companies to lay off workers. One thing. Second, no notice of termination of an employment shall be necessary in case of the temporary workman. This more logic. So if it is a temporary workman, then no notice of termination can be given to him. It can be taken. So the answer for this sort of a question is both 1 and 2. Both are logic in nature. So you don't have to burden up much. If you have seen it and if you have gone through once, that would have been more than sufficient for you to get an answer that the answer is C. That is both 1 and 2. Then we have, in the context of digital technologies for this entertainment, consider the following statements. So this is about the augmented reality and the virtual reality. So the statements are being there. Most of the times we do check it on the biotechnology and other things, but we fail to understand the terms on the augmented and reality and the virtual reality part. So by stating that, the answer would be 3 and 4, because here the augmented reality allows the individuals to be present in the world and improves the experience using the camera of the smartphone or a PC. So this, there's a lot of examples which can be quoted for it. And then we have the virtual reality, which actually closes the world. So it is basically on the transposes on the individual, where they would be providing a complete immersion experiences. So this is purely on an understanding on what could be a augmented reality and what could be a virtual reality. Anytime when we get these kinds of words in the newspapers, we have to take a little burden to understand what it is. If we know that part, then the answer would have been very easy. That is nothing but your B answer, that is 3 and 4. Then comes the word Denisovan, is sometimes mentioned in media in reference to, if you see in the month of somewhere, if I'm not wrong, the current affairs part, somewhere around August, I guess. So I remember I doing a video on that somewhere in the August. The date I'm not able to recall. So in the video we spoke about the Denisovan. Denisovan is nothing but an early human species. So if you know this, just 20 seconds you would have got your answer. Just to read this and conclude an answer, just taking 20 seconds. So answer is B, an early human species. So that is the reason not to rely much on the compilations. Do your current affairs on a daily basis. If you do your current affairs on a daily basis, these were very direct current affairs question to what it was being picked up. You don't have to memorize much of this. One time if you have read it also, you would have been able to get an answer for it. 43. With references to the recent developments in science, which one of the following statements is not correct? So if you see, first, the functional chromosomes can be created by joining segments of DNA taken from cells of different species. This itself you will be getting stuck there, because joining the segments of DNA taken from cells of different species just can't be possible. So first statement itself, I'll keep it as a 50% hold, because I need to see another 3 statements. The pieces of artificial functioning DNA can be created in laboratories. This we can call it as an artificial, functional part which would be there. So this is for 43, we can ensure that, okay, B somewhere it is related to it, because it is purely on the artificial gene, synthesizers. So this is on that. When it comes to the C, a piece of DNA taken out from an animal cell can be made to replicate outside a living cell in laboratory. There is nothing but a cloning culture which can be seen in statement 3, because there is a lot of animal tissue culture technology which has been there from quite some time, and DNA was again repeatedly there in your uses. And D, cells taken out from the plants and animals can be made to undergo cell division in laboratory, Petri dishes. So again, this somewhere we would be able to be concluding, but definitely not option A, because functional chromosomes can be created by joining the segments of DNA taken from cells of different species is not an answer. So that is not the correct answer. Then consider the following statements. It is basically on the digital signature. When a digital signature has been done, we know that it's an electronic record that identifies the certifying authority issuing it, first and foremost. Secondly, they use it as a proof of identity of an individual to access information on a server on the internet. Could be. 3. An electronic method of signing an electronic document ensuring that the original content is unchanged. So 3 becomes more of logic to be seen. 2 could be also as one of the answer, because we don't have 1 and 3 as an option. What we have is 1, 2 and 3. 1 you're very sure, 3 you're sure, then the answer should be 1, 2 and 3. Whether you understood or whether you have an idea or not, 2 should be an answer out here. So the answer for 44th is nothing but with respect to D, that is 1, 2 and 3. 45, in the context of wearable technology. So wearable technology, you can use it in identifying a person by monitoring sleep of a person, or by assisting a person who has been impaired. So hearing impaired person can also wear it. So basically it is D, 1, 2 and 3. All of them have been a part of it. So 45, it's nothing but D. Then the RNA interference technology has gained popularity in the last few years. So for this, the correct answer would be 1, 2 and 4. Why? It can be, second statement, it can be used in developing therapies for treatment of cancer. It is correct. It is used in developing the gene slicing therapies of the first statement. It is also correct. And the third statement, it can be used to develop the hormone replacement therapies. So the term hormone is where you need to check it out. So hormone replacement therapies, we still have not gone to that extent. Fourth, it can be used to produce crop plants that are resistant to viral pathogens. Could be, there is a possibility of it. So the answer would be more likely is 1, 2 and 4, because third, not sure, because you're very sure about the second statement. There should be involvement of the second statement. In that case, your answer would be 1, 2 and 4. Then 47, recently the scientists observed the merger of the giant black holes billions of light years away from the earth. What is the significance of this particular observation? So if you have come across an editorial which is called as in ripples of discord, then you would have got an answer within 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, 10 seconds. The answer is nothing but gravitational waves were detected. So this was, even if you have not read the editorial of ripples of discord, again not an issue, would have got an answer to be as B again. So current affairs, simple current affairs. We call it to be a simple question, not a complicated question at all. 48. Which of the following are the reasons for the occurrence of multi-drug resistance and microbial pathogens in India? First, genetic predisposition of some people. So if your term is not clear, you might get stuck out here. Second, taking incorrect doses of antibiotics to cure diseases. So multiple drug is something where again and again you are doing. Could be incorrect doses, could be one of the contribution to it. 3. Using antibiotics in livestock farming. So yes, they are using it even in the livestock farming as well. Multiple chronic disease in some people. So just because a person has a multiple chronic disease, it can't be a reason for a multiple drug resistance and microbial pathogens in India. So more likely, you know that 4 cannot be an answer. If 4 is not an answer, C and D is not an answer. If 1 and 2 is what you have been getting stuck with, then you can give a chance with the genetic predisposition of some people. Cannot be an answer. So the correct answer you can land up to be as B, that is 2 and 3 with a logic. Then 49, what is Cas9 protein? That was often mentioned in news. Very simple. Without any further delay, you could have reached your answer. That is your a molecular scissor used in targeting gene editing. So this was a very simple answer we have covered in the month of July, because there were repeated questions on Cas9 protein, and gene editing was also with respect to one of the China scientists was also one of the issue of there. So you could have got an answer very easily. Gene editing. 50. Which one of the following statements is not correct? So for this particular part, you will be having option A, hepatitis B virus is transmitted much like HIV. Yes. Hepatitis B is unlike hepatitis C, does not have a vaccine. We are not sure. Globally, the number of the people infected with hepatitis B and C viruses are several times more than in those infected with HIV. So this, if you see logically, could be an answer. Some of those infected with hepatitis B and C viruses do not show the symptoms for many years. Yes. But if we see the columns of hepatitis A, B, C and other parts, hepatitis C is the one which is not having any vaccines. So the correct answer for the 50th is option B. Hepatitis B, unlike the hepatitis C, does not have a vaccine. So this is a answer for your 50th question. So these were the first 50 set of questions. We made an analysis and the answers also were given. So the second part of the video, again we would be doing a deep analysis with respect to what could be an answer and what is the answers that we are actually not able to land up because of the close conformity and informations to what we have. So we need to wait for the UPSC series for it. So I'll get back to you all with part 2 with the analysis and with accurate answers, but have it one thing clear, that whatever we have been doing, it's logical, and with the current affairs and the static portions we are trying to give you the answer. But this cannot be termed as a complete answer. I can guarantee you 90% what I am giving as an answer is a purely tested answer, but we need to still wait for the UPSC answer keys because they are the ultimate ones which would be giving you the marks. So let me see you all for the second part of the video with respect to from 51 to 100 paper. So this is the end of the video. Thank you and happy learning.